Finding Your Flow with Darryl Trimmer. I'm Darryl Trimmer. I've been practicing yoga for the last 12 years. My main style of yoga is Vinyasa yoga. Today we are going to start more in seated positions and then eventually work up to a downward facing dog. So just getting things prepared for that through the course of the session. So we're going to get started with the legs out in front of us, all right? We'll take the left ankle just underneath the right knee. So make sure that we're not pulling it in towards the hip, but it's actually directly underneath the knee. We can cross our shins here. All right, we'll take the hands just a little bit off in front, lift the breastbone up, and we'll find ourselves pulling forward, imagining that we have a rainbow coming from the belly button, trying to lift up and over top of your shins. And as we're here, trying to find a little bit of sensation through the outside of the hips and just being comfortable where we're at, staying steady and breathing. And we're going to come back. Take the left hand just out to the side in line with the hips. And as you, maybe at a 45-degree angle or so for the shoulder, press the hand down, push the floor away. Think about the ribs popping out towards the right. Reach the right arm up overhead. I have the thumb trying to point up towards the ceiling, pinky down. And as you continue to push the left hand into the floor, again, think about the right side of the ribs opening up. And if you want, you can always bend the elbow, have the hand rest to the back of the head, and then even giving a little bit of a push back hand, pressing against the head, just giving ourselves a little support, letting us know that our chin isn't just down into the chest, but that we find it level with everything else. Again, where we find that pressure, that sensation of stretch, is where we're going to work to send the breath. Just another breath here. Again, we'll come back up. We'll take that right hand more down the upper part of the back. Take the left arm behind. Good. Some of us might have the back of the hand resting somewhere on the back. Others might have a bind or even holding onto a towel if you've got one handy around. Right, think about as those hands bind that we're working to pull the hands apart a little bit. Think right elbow pushing up to the ceiling, and that left elbow pressing down towards the floor. And try to sit up tall. If you notice that your chin's starting to tuck in, that we're rounding forward, again, just think about lifting up the breastbone and bringing that chin level with the ground. We'll release the bind, and we'll take the legs back out in front. Right. So as we change sides, we'll take that right ankle underneath the left knee, and again, not in towards the hip, but think directly under the knee. Cross the shins. So we have those shins parallel to that whatever side of the mat that we're on, that long or short edge. It'll lift the breastbone up. Again, that belly button has a rainbow coming from it. We're thinking about rainbowing that up and over the front shins. Pull yourself forward, and again, feel that sensation through the outside of the hips. And some of us might even feel a little bit of stress moving through the spine. That's normal, right? We want, again, to find some length through the spine. So rather than rounding through our forward folds, we're thinking about pulling that spine and then elongating it. And as we come back out, walk the hands back and sit up nice and tall. Take the right hand directly out and in line with the hip, and again off more or less at a 45-degree angle. Take that right hand, push it into the mat, let the left ribs pop out to the side. We'll take that left arm up overhead, maybe trying to spin the thumb up towards the ceiling so the palm's facing back behind you. Again, same option as before. You can even bend the elbow, take the hand to the back of the head, give a gentle press of that head back, bringing the chin level with the floor. Again, that stretch should be coming right through that left side of the body, through the outside of the shoulders, and through the outside of the ribs. Again, just another breath. And we'll come back up. Take that left hand down the spine. Right arm comes up the back. And again, doesn't matter if we're binding those hands or if we have them floating into space or you've grabbed onto a towel. But if we do have a towel or we do have that bind, and think about pulling the hands apart, right elbow down into the pocket, left elbow up towards the sky. Again, just another breath. And we'll slowly release those hands. We'll just roll over the shins. Then come into a tabletop. And I want you to think knees directly underneath the hips. And then once we get here, I want you to pull the belly in so that we're not spilling everything off towards the mat. Take the hands out. And as you reach those hands out in front, again, pull that belly in. Maybe the forehead rests just on top of the floor. All right, again, as we squeeze in the belly, maybe some of us like to come onto our fingertips, give a little bit extra pressure in the shoulders here. And even think about those eyes of the elbow trying to spin up towards the ceiling, whether your palms are flat or you have those fingertips resting on the mat and those palms are lifted. And think about those forearms nice and strong. And as we keep this position here, lift the head, take the left hand and then weave it over to the right. Take the left shoulder down to the floor. And again, still keeping that right arm off of the mat. And you can look over to the right if it's comfortable, or you can continue to have that forehead flat on the floor. And think about that left hand really reaching off to the side, and then maybe now even that right hand starts to walk a little bit further forward. And then pushing through the right hand, lift yourself back up, take the left arm back out, and again, send the forehead down to the floor, continuing to pull in those ribs. And again, think eyes of the elbow, continuing to spin up towards the ceiling. As you continue to find that stretch to the outside of the shoulders, again, we're going to lift the head up, take the right hand, weave it over to the left. And as it goes all the way out, find a little bit of a twist through that spine. Take the right shoulder down to the floor. And again, same options. Whatever is comfortable for the neck, you can look over to the left. You can have the head facing down towards the floor. And again, as you continue to stretch that right arm as far as you can to one side, the left hand can maybe walk a little bit further out. So just accentuating whatever length that we're trying to find here. Again, if you notice that that left arm starts to fade and fall towards the floor, start to push down through either the palm or the fingertips. Find some strength through the arm and through the shoulder. And just another breath here. And push down through the left hand. Bring the right arm back out. And again, ending back with the forehead back down to the floor. And again, those ribs are still pulling in. Think about the lower ribs cinching towards one another. And eyes at the elbows continue to spin up towards the ceiling. And just another breath. Again, we can bring the hands back a little bit. Push through them. Come into a tabletop. And once we get into that tabletop, again, keeping everything nice and firm so we engage the core here. Again, think those lower ribs cinching towards one another. Take your right foot, step it to the back of the mat. And as you have those toes pushed down, you're going to start to send that right heel towards the floor. Now you can even think about those hands trying to push forward. And we should look for a stretch through the back of that left leg, more around the calf or the outside or the back of the ankles. And think about that right heel continuing to sink towards the floor. And taking the right knee down. Again, we'll take that left leg, step it back, toes push down into the floor. Hands press forward on your mat like we're trying to lengthen the mat here. Send the left heel down towards the floor. And again, through the back of that left leg is where we're looking to find that sensation, that tension, that stretch. Of course, some of us might be feeling a little bit higher up, others maybe a little bit lower towards the ankle. Again, we'll send that left knee back down to the floor. Right. Have your toes tucked under. Take your hips, sit down on the heels. And if you find that there's quite a lot of pressure through the back of the feet, if it's a little bit too much for you, you can always take a block and place a block on top of the heels or even a cushion just to elevate the hips and send the weight a little bit further forward rather than directly down on the feet. And bring the arms out in front. We'll take the right elbow on top of the left. Hug the shoulders. And as you hug the shoulders with the hands, you're going to push the elbows forward. You're going to think about creating a little bit of space through the upper part of the back. And then once we get here, I want you to think really about concaving in the chest, letting the spine pop out behind you, and then pulling in that belly. So we have a nice little flexion through the spine. And then from here, we'll start to press the belly button forward, lift the chest up, and maybe even letting the head go back just a little bit. And then we'll change and coming back into that rounded spine. Again, concave in everything through the front. Pull in the belly. Good, think about that upper back still spreading apart. And again, going back, right, pressing the belly forward, lifting up the breastbone, elbows away from the body towards the ceiling, and then back the other way. And then we'll go for another round or two here. Again, just nice and slow, creating a little bit of rhythm and some pace for yourself. And as always, if we're not on the same cue or same area, it doesn't really matter. Remember that it's your practice that we're going through. And just to take your time. And we're going to end up in a neutral spine. And we'll take the hands back down to the floors. And of course, you might need to just give a little bit of life back to those toes. You can push them on the mat. You can wiggle them a little bit here. And once we're finished with that, we'll step the right foot to the top of the mat between the hands. And we'll start to wiggle the toes forward a bit. And then maybe some of us have a little bit of a bend in the knee. So others might have it straight. Think about breastbone lifting. So we want that length through the spine. So I'm going to recommend, generally for most, is that little bend in the knee at least. Looking for that stretch just through the back of the leg. mainly through the belly of the muscle, right around here. And then using a little bit of strength, we're going to take the heel, push it down into the floor, and even think about scraping that heel back towards you. So now in that stretch in the back of the leg, we're working to build a little bit of strength as well. Just another breath here. Bend the knee. And we're going to walk the right foot over to the left. Bring the hip down to the floor. And we'll end up in a 90-90. So we're going to have the knees in line with the hips and the ankles in line with the knees. Right? So we have that 90-degree angle here and the 90-degree angle at the pelvis. Right? We're going to spin ourselves forward a little bit. The other thing about belly button, moving down through the center of your shin, just like we were doing right at the beginning. As the breastbone lifts up, think rainbow coming from the belly button, trying to lift up and over top of that front right shin, right? The sitting bone in the center of that right butt cheek is trying to lift up and then push back behind you. Think about that length through the spine as we pull ourselves forward. And again, if we want to work to build some strength in the outside of the hip, we can think about that right foot now pushing down and then trying to sweep through the floor a little bit. And of course, that pushing of the foot down doesn't have to be too intense. You can always grade it as to what's comfortable for yourself. And we're going to walk those hands back. Again, almost like we were doing at the beginning. You're going to take that right hand out and in line with the hip. Push the hand into the floor, let the ribs pop out to the left. We're going to send that left arm up, overhead, continuing to stretch it through the side. And noticing any change from the beginning. Have things opened up a little bit through the outside of the ribs, through the outside of the shoulder. And as you continue to push the right hand down, left hand's trying to reach in the opposite direction. Just another breath here. And as we make our way up, take your right heel, slide the heel in towards the hip, bring the left leg up, take the left foot forward. And use your hands if you need. We're going to push off of the shin, slide the right knee back, think knee underneath the hip. And again, as we get here, you're going to wiggle the foot out a little bit. Continue to have a slight bend in that left knee. You can lift the toes up towards the ceiling. Keep the breastbone lifted. Pull yourself towards your toes. And again, that sensation should be right through the back of that left leg, right around the belly of the muscle here. And just like before, you can have that left heel pushing down, and then gently trying to scrape back towards your hip, like you're trying to shorten up the mat with your foot. And we'll start to bend the knee. Wiggle that left foot over to the right. And as we take the hip down to the floor, again, as I turn so you can see, we'll have the knees in line with the hip and the ankles in line with the knees. Again, that 90-degree angle there and a 90-degree angle at the pelvis. Hands come a little bit out to the sides, don't necessarily have to go forward. Again, lift the breastbone, think belly button going down through the center of that left shin. Pull yourself forward. Again, imagining that that rainbow is coming and arching over top of that left shin from your belly button. Again, just as we were doing before, you can think about the left foot pushing down, trying to sweep through the floor. Again, working to find a little bit of strength through that outside of the left hip. Last breath here. Coming up, take the left heel, slide it in, step the right foot forward again. Again, using your hands if you need. Push yourself up, bring the left leg back, and then step the right knee back. So we're in this tabletop position. And then once we get into that tabletop, again, we're going to go through a little bit of cat-cows here. So still some movement in the spine. As you round your spine, pull the belly in. And I want that spine popping up towards the sky. And as we start to find a cow here, start to send the belly button down, ribs down, and then the chest forward, trying to push through the arms so they stay straight and strong the whole time, just like pillars of a building. And as we round the spine, pull the belly in, continue to push the floor away. Again, as you find that extension or that little back bend here, keep the arms straight, belly down, chest forward, shoulders down the back. Again, rounding. And finding that extension. Couple more. We'll bring everything into a neutral spine. And as we tuck those toes, or continue to tuck them if they already were, send the hips down to the heels so that nothing changes from that tabletop. Again, as promised, working up to that downward facing dog. Lifting the hips, and then working to send the heels maybe a little bit towards the floor. And it's not a bad thing to have a bend in the knees. Again, just like we were doing at the beginning, right? Think about the eyes of the elbows spinning up towards the ceiling, the hips towards the sky as well. Maybe for some of us, those heels can come down. Maybe the legs are straight, or maybe we still keep them bent. But we want to think about creating one line from the wrist to the shoulders all the way up to the hips. Again, it's that elongation of the spine, that lengthening, that opening up of the shoulders. As we're here, just breathing, getting settled in. And then just another couple of breaths. And last one. And we'll bring the knees down to the floor. Again, coming back into that tabletop. Take the tops of the feet to the floor, big toes together. And we'll let those knees separate a little bit here towards the outer edge of the mat. And again, reaching the arms forward, child's pose, letting that forehead rest down on the floor. Your choice as to what you want to do with the arms. Forearms lifted or relaxing those arms down. And just think with those inhales, the ribs are expanding and opening up. And on the exhales, we feel that sinking sensation. Feeling a little bit heavy. Just another breath here. And lift the head, walk the hands back. And as we have that seat at the end, and you can always take your time at the end, lying down, finding your Shavasana, arms next to the sides, eyes are closed, and as always, take about 5 minutes or so just to yourself. Thank you so much for joining. We hope to see you again.